What's going on, people? So I was watching the NFL Top 100, and this kind of inspired me. I said, you know what? I'm not going to do 100 players, obviously, but I was going to say, why don't I do a top 10 list of, I believe, the top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now? And I'm going to be doing this based off of talent. I'm going to try and exclude the players around them, the system they're in, how good their team is overall, and just go based on how good I think the quarterback is. So I listed them from 10 to 1. And, obviously you're not going to agree with all my opinions here, but if I had to pick my top 10 in order, this is the way I would pick it. At number 10, we start with a guy who's only started in 7 NFL games, but he's pretty damn good because he's undefeated. Jimmy Garoppolo. So last year, he obviously started the season with the New England Patriots, was Tom Brady's backup, and there was a lot of, I would say, disagreement over whether to trade Garoppolo or to keep him. And from what I understand, Coach Belichick wanted to keep him. Robert Kraft wanted to get rid of him, and that caused a bunch of controversy that didn't really get out too much. But when he was traded to the 49ers, who were winless, he took over a 1-10 team. The 49ers obviously weren't that talented last year, and he led them to a 5-0 record as their starter. He's 7-0 in his career because I think it was the year Tom Brady was suspended for the whole Deflategate thing, and he took over and won the first 2 games. So Jimmy Garoppolo as a starter is undefeated right now. And last year watching him play, we saw a guy who, he doesn't have much experience in the NFL, but he was very poised and made accurate throws and was able to lead a team that was considered pretty bad to a 5-0 record. So that team was going nowhere. You throw in Jimmy G, not much preparation, and just did a fantastic job. So I think this year with a full season and a full offseason under his belt, I think it's going to be a really good year for Garoppolo. And based off of that, I would consider him a top 10 talent at the quarterback position. At number 9, we have a guy who has a pretty interesting NFL career. So I would say about the first 8 years of Matt Ryan's NFL tenure, he was pretty much considered a pretty good quarterback. Some people would say really good. And then 2016 with Kyle Shanahan, I think it was his second year as offensive coordinator there, the team just blew up. They were averaging over 30 points a game. Obviously went to the Super Bowl, and it didn't end so well. It started really well, it didn't end so well. But Matt Ryan, last year they had a offensive coordinator change. I believe it was Sarkisian or something like that. And their offense just didn't flow like it did in previous years. And last year had 20 touchdowns, which is nothing for him. His first 10 years had at least 26 touchdowns, as you can see. But he is an MVP, first team All-Pro, and Matt Ryan is about as solid as it gets at the quarterback position. I think his flaws would be, making poor decisions in the red zone and sometimes making questionable throws that result in turnovers. And Matt Ryan will probably never wow you as a quarterback, but he does the little things right and has a really good arm. So Matt Ryan definitely could improve on some things, but overall, definitely a top 10 quarterback in this league. At number 8 is a guy who I believe never gets enough credit, Matthew Stafford. You look at the team he plays on, they never have any kind of running game. People are always getting hurt, and Matt Stafford has to lead them to a bunch of fourth quarter comebacks, which he's always great at. And I think Matt Stafford, he's very underrated in my opinion. He does have 3 playoff appearances, which is nice, but you look at his stats every year, and they kind of wow you because it's like, how come his teams aren't doing much? Well, their defense is always average and their run game is non-existent. So putting all that pressure on Matt Stafford to get the job done is something he usually does. And the Lions are never terrible. They always seem to fall between 7 and 9 wins, but unfortunately for Stafford, their team overall has never been too impressive. So I'm really hoping that his team can make a deep playoff run one year. I really like Matthew Stafford a lot. Has a cannon for an arm. Accuracy's pretty good. Can't really complain. And he has his flaws, of course, but I think overall, compared to most quarterbacks in this league, he's definitely a top 10 guy. So the toss-up between him and Matt Ryan is close, but I would give the edge to Stafford because I think he's more of a dynamic player than Matt Ryan is. At number 7 is another guy who I don't think gets enough credit. He'll probably end up in the Hall of Fame one day. It's Phillip Rivers. Quietly over the last few years, Rivers has put up some really good stats for the Chargers. They seem to never find their way into the playoffs because they can't find a freaking kicker for their lives. I really hope they get that problem sorted out. I think the Chargers overall are going to be very scary this year. But, you look at Rivers' resume, 7-time Pro Bowler, 5 playoff appearances, over 50,000 career passing yards. And last year had a really good year, over 4,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. You can't ask for much more from a guy that is that age and is still doing it at a very high level. I believe Rivers has at least a few more years left, and watching him is fun. He has that wacky arm angle, and I honestly have no idea how he throws that well with that kind of arm angle, but he makes it work. I think, as I said, I think this year's going to be a big year for Rivers and for the Chargers overall. And as long as they can all stay healthy, which seems to be an issue, and find themselves a freaking kicker, they should be fine. So hopefully Rivers, finds his way into a Super Bowl and can win himself a ring, because I do think the Chargers have that good of a team this year. At number 6, Ben Roethlisberger of the Steelers, of course. Roethlisberger's first, 6 years or so, had 3 Super Bowl appearances, won 2 of them, and hasn't been back since because it's really been run by Brady in the AFC. But this guy's resume is crazy. 2-time Super Bowl winner, 6-time Pro Bowler, career rating of 94.0 as quarterback rating, 10 playoff appearances. That's crazy. It was funny last year after that. I think it was 5 interception game against the Jaguars. Everyone was like, "Oh, Big Ben's done. This is his final year. He just wants to get his money and get out." And then he turns it around and puts together a really nice season. 4,200 yards, 28 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 5 of those in one game. And they came close to making it a game against the Jaguars in the second round, and they really came out. I think the Jaguars scored 40-something points on them that game. So Roethlisberger once again came close to seeing the Patriots, but couldn't get it done. You look at his career overall. I mean, I think he should get back to a Super Bowl at some point. Getting by Brady is going to be really tough, but based off talent, the Steelers will always be in it. And for Roethlisberger overall, I mean, he's just an incredible player. His size, his footwork, and ability to stay on his feet from big pass rushers, and his deep ball, and working with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell definitely helps. But Roethlisberger is one of the best players at his position and has done it for a very long time. At number 5, we have Super Bowl champion Carson Wentz. It was his second year this year, and he came out and was, the runaway MVP until he unfortunately tore his ACL. His team was 10-2, definitely the front runner for that. You look at his season last year, 12.5 games, 3,200 yards, basically 3,300 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions with a 101.9 rating. Carson Wentz was unbelievable. I mean, he was making plays last long and finding guys down the field. He was just the best player on the field when he was out there. And as a Giant fan, having to deal with Carson Wentz for the next 10 to 15 years scares the hell out of me. Part of the reason I wanted to draft a quarterback, but Carson Wentz is very intimidating, and he could be a real weapon. I hope his rehab is going well, and he'll come back next year even stronger. He's a really impressive player, a raw talent at first, but he really seemed to come to his own last year, and definitely, I think, one of the top 5 talents in the league at that quarterback position. So, as I said, it's only his second year, and as his years go on, he'll definitely become a better player, you would think. So, it'll be interesting to see what Wentz does with this great Eagle team, and I hope they're not too good in the future, but they definitely have the talent to do so, and as long as Wentz is healthy, they should be a really great team for the next 5 to 10 years. At number 4, a guy that was always doubted based off his height, where he was drafted, Russell Wilson, Super Bowl champion, should have been 2, but we know what happened. 4-time Pro Bowler. Last year, he just straight up carried his team. He had no running game. Chris Carson was doing well for them. He broke his leg. Russell Wilson had no offensive line for the last couple of years. Had to do basically everything on his own. You always see Russell running for his life and making some kind of incredible play out of it. And that scary Seahawks defense, which it's been for the last 5 to 6 years, wasn't that scary last year. They definitely, they lost some guys to injury. Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, probably some other guys I can't even think of. But they definitely were not that great defense, and a lot of it fell on Russell Wilson's shoulders. 34 touchdowns, 11 picks last year. almost 600 rushing yards and almost 4,000 pass yards. So I think if his team did better, he would have been the MVP this year. He still brought that team to 9-7, which is very impressive. I mean, if you put an average quarterback on the Seahawks, I mean, that's probably a 5 or 6 win team. So Russell Wilson does a lot of things on his own. I hope they get that fixed up there in Seattle. I really like Russell. I'm always rooting for him. He's a good guy, and to see him on a bad team is tough to watch. So hopefully they get back on track in Seattle. At number 3, he's been around for a long time. He's the heart of the New Orleans Saints. I believe he owns the most 5,000 passing yard seasons in NFL history. That would be Drew Brees, a Super Bowl champion, 7 playoff appearances. As I said, 4 seasons with 5,000 plus yards. That's crazy. Offensive Player of the Year twice in his career. The way his season ended last year was a shame. The Stephon Diggs play, I really thought the Saints had a chance to go really far last year. They'll be back, though. And Drew Brees was not asked to do a lot last year because of Mark Ingram doing really well. Alvin Kamara, of course, was ridiculous, and they had that improved offensive line. So Drew Brees still threw for over 4,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a rating of 103.9, which is really good. So Drew Brees can definitely get it done. He wasn't asked to do as much last year. I believe he'll be 40 next year, so that'll be interesting to see if he still has it. But, Drew Brees is definitely one of the greats of all time and still one of the best today. So, I mean, when he's asked to, when they call his number, he definitely gets the job done. So, Drew Brees should definitely be one of the best quarterbacks in the league next year, and definitely top 3 in my mind. At number 2, and this may cause some controversy, I put Tom Brady. So you probably know where this is going. I mean, I did this based off of talent, and Tom Brady was put into a perfect situation with the greatest coach of all time, probably, and always has a good roster around him. And I don't want to take anything away from Tom Brady. He's a magnificent player. I think he's the greatest of all time at that position. Is he the most talented of all time? I don't think so, but I have to respect his work ethic and the way he eats and everything. I mean, it's just unbelievable the way this guy takes care of himself. A 5-time Super Bowl champion, 13-time Pro Bowler, 3-time MVP. The list goes on and on for this guy. Last year had over 4,500 yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and also won the MVP, I believe. So, the Carson Wentz injury really opened the door for that. But Tom Brady every year can be an MVP candidate. He does so much for them. I just think based off a talent standpoint that there is one player better than him. And, Tom Brady had that tough loss in the Super Bowl last year, but you'd have to imagine he'll be back and, better than ever, because when a guy like Tom Brady comes off a loss, it's scary to see what's going to happen. I think he'll be 41 next year, so definitely getting up there, but has shown no signs of slowing down, so you can't think that Tom Brady is really close to the end yet. And number 1, I'm sure you guessed it, I put Aaron Rodgers. And the Rodgers versus Brady debate for who is more talented is a side of Rodgers that I will always take. I mean, when I watch Aaron Rodgers play, the things he does it's like a video game. I mean, he can get away from pass rushers and, make these pinpoint throws that just aren't supposed to be made. And, you saw how bad the Packers were when you took Rodgers off of them last year. It just tells you how valuable he is to that team. And, just from a raw talent standpoint, Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is the best player that I've ever seen play the quarterback position. I've been watching football for over 10 years now, but, I haven't seen many of the old greats. But from what I've seen, Aaron Rodgers is incredible. And you look at a guy with a 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio for his career, which, nobody's even close to. 9 playoff appearances, a 2-time MVP, won a Super Bowl. Hasn't been back in a while because, they don't put a great roster around him, unfortunately. But I think Aaron Rodgers, before it's all said and done, will definitely be back in the Super Bowl. Had the injury to his collarbone last year, and that was an unfortunate situation. So I really hope he stays healthy. And, as I said, if you just have to put Brady, if you put Aaron Rodgers in Tom Brady's shoes and gave them the same rosters and everything, I think Tom Brady would have less rings than Aaron Rodgers would. So it might be crazy to say, but I think if you had Aaron Rodgers and Bill Belichick together, I do think that it would produce more rings than Tom Brady and Mike McCarthy. So with that being said, I have to put Rodgers first, and I tried to make it as fair as possible. A lot of you probably won't agree with that, but from what I see with my own eyes, Aaron Rodgers is hands down the most talented player, I think, in the whole league. So definitely got to put him first. So that'll do it. Thank you for watching, and I just want to add, if Andrew Luck was healthy, I would put him in the top 10, but I obviously can't do that because of his injury status. But I do think Andrew Luck is definitely a top 10 talent at the quarterback position, but hasn't played in a while, so I can't really do that. But thank you for watching, and please leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you have disagreements or want to leave your own top 10 in the comments, that would be great. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.